Trent Tripple, Ada County Clerk. You are back, sir. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Just great.
Just great. I think you were wearing the same shirt last time you were in here. You have like a strong plaid
game. It was
game.
red and white. It was plaid, but it was red and white.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, listen, you still look good in it.
Thank you.
You're back on the ranch. God bless it. I got a hold of you recently, obviously because I actually got a hold of you months and months ago when you were featured nationally for your ballot verifier, because Idaho is kicking ass with elections. Congratulations on that. But beyond that, again, besides the feel-good piece about like, good job, pat yourself on the back, Trent, there was a big question that came up recently in regard to some national communication about what the American election system is and is not, what we do and do not participate in, either by states or nationally, who the election system is really here to serve. And you, being head of elections within Ada County, you have a great understanding of this. So I asked you if you'd come in and help everybody understand, and myself included. Okay, talk to me about voting machines. Do we even have voting machines? Like, is there like a red box video voting machine in Albertsons I can go in and like punch it? I mean, do we have, mail-in ballots? Like, all of these things are concerns for people. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, you bet. There's a lot of discussion that goes on about two things in particular with elections, and recently with some of the national narrative that's been going on. One is mail-in voting. There are some states that do exclusively mail-in voting, right? Oh. They do all of their voting by mail. They send every registered voter a ballot in the mail, whether they requested it or not. They may have small in-person voting capability, but it's not robust. They predominantly do all their stuff by mail. That is what we refer to in elections administration as mail-in voting. What we have here in Idaho is absentee voting, right? Majority of our voters in Idaho and in Ada County specifically vote in person. 70 to 80% of them vote in person, either early in person or on election day at a precinct. Around 20 to 30% will request an absentee ballot. We have never mailed an absentee ballot to anybody who has not requested it. That's a huge distinction between mail-in voting systems and those that have some sort of absentee ability to do it. Now, some people conflate the idea, right? Sometimes that ballot comes back via the mail, right? But it doesn't have to come back via the mail. You can drop it off at a drop box. You can drop it off in person, all those things, right? They think, well, that's mail-in voting. It's not mail-in voting. It's absentee. We service military members that way. We service senior citizens that way. We service the single mom that's working 3 jobs who can't get to a place to vote in person that way. It is something that Idahoans have traditionally always taken advantage of, right, when they cannot make it to the polls in person to vote. And it's a constitutional right. So that's one big distinction, right?
May I ask a question?
You bet.
So when you say it's a constitutional right, is that an Idaho constitutional right that if an American citizen cannot make it to the actual polling location, that Idaho will supply them with a ballot that they can deliver? Or are you just saying voting in general? That's
a statutory structure, right? Okay. The voting in general is a constitutional right, and we don't want to be denying anybody the ability to vote, regardless of their circumstances, right?
One more.
Yeah.
I mean, to be clear, I understand the argument that it's like, hey, mail-in ballots, this is a bad idea, or ballot harvesting, this is a bad idea,
sure,
right? And I could see if you say you're in charge of 100,000 people, and you're like, hey man, we're going to automatically send 100,000 people, and by the way, we're going to have also in-person voting, so 100,000 voting ballots go out, and then you also have to have ballots at a physical location. So say I get a ballot delivered to my home, but I'm like, I'm going to go in and vote, right? And I throw that ballot, let's say, in the trash.
Yep.
Okay. And then I roll in to vote, and I vote in person, and they're like, okay, here's your ballot. So now there are 2 ballots with Matt Todd, right? Like, one got mailed to me and I threw it in my trash. One, I went and physically filled it out. Well, somebody could jump in my trash and be like, here's the ballot. Haha. And now all of a sudden 2 Matt Todd votes go out. I understand the criticism for that 100%.
Sure.
We do not have that. And when, let's say I request an absentee ballot, but I go in and I'm like, I'm going to do this anyway. So first off, you know how many absentee ballots went out. So when I throw away that absentee ballot, if somebody's like, aha, I got a ballot. And they go and make 100 copies of it or 1,000 copies of it. You guys know to the piece of paper how many absentee ballots went out. So if you sent out, let's say 10,000 absentee ballots and you get 11,000 absentee votes, you know instantaneously, you're like, this is impossible. There's no way that we have this. You also, before you even open the envelope that is delivered back to your voting area, before you open it up to even see what you verify signatures of that person. So Matt has a signature on my driver's license. I have signature on, when I register to vote. I have signature, all kinds of digital signatures that you guys have access to. So if somebody grabs that ballot out of the trash and like, I know, I'm gonna vote this way, and they vote it all out, put it down, slap some dumb signature on, it comes back in. Not only do you know, hey, Matt voted in person, and then we got this envelope in here, right? Before you even open the envelope, you're like, there's no way that's Matt's signature. That doesn't match the other 4 signatures we have.
Right.
So you have in Ada County right now an incredibly robust checks and balance system that's like, hey, man, if you could squeak one past the goalie, that's going to be pretty wild because we have all of these things you'd have to check.
Yes.
Great.
The other thing that's part of that is the accuracy of the voter roll, right? We in the state of Idaho do a really good job of monitoring that voter registration roll and removing people that should not be on it. I can tell you other jurisdictions don't do that great of job on maintaining that voter roll. So for instance, if you had a mail-in voting system, right, and you mailed it to all of these registered voters, a large percentage of who don't live currently at their addresses because they've either moved, they've passed away, the statutory requirement. Yep. Now all of a sudden you have all these ballots out there that don't belong to a person because the person's not there, right? That's really the biggest problem that I have with mail-in voting, right? But in Idaho, I don't send you a ballot unless you physically request it, right? And so that's how one way we minimize that risk. And then maintaining the voter roll too, is so that we know that everyone on the voter roll is an actual person that's living here, that has residency, that's proven all those things, that's positively identified themselves. So I know who I'm sending this to, right?
And to be clear on this one, I have a neighbor, former neighbor, who was actually telling me that he was like, this was a couple of years ago. He's like, elections are really rough. And I'm like, what do you mean, man? And he had an experience where his wife had gone to a college in a different state, and the ballot continued to get sent to that apartment. Now these people are in the late 40s, right? And they looked it up recently, and somebody had taken that ballot and voted in that state for her. And they had let that election individual know several times, like, I don't live here anymore, like, take me off. And they continued to send out ballot. That's not happening here. So 2 things have to happen. One, you have to be an up-to-date registered voter in the state of Idaho in order to request a ballot. And then only when you request the ballot and you're verified as a registered valid voter does a ballot get sent out. So those are the 2 things. It's like at no point is somebody 20 years later who lived at like a BSU apartment still getting a ballot, because you don't even send that out unless the person's like, hey, Trent, can I get one? And you're like, who are you? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing you brought up was voting machines. When people talk about voting machines, let's make sure everyone understands these definitions. 97% of the people in the United States vote on a paper ballot. Okay. The 3% that don't live in one state, and that is Louisiana.
Wait, what happens in Louisiana?
They vote on a machine. There is no paper record of it. And that's the big rub, right? We want to have a paper trail. We want to have something that we can look back and audit that can't be changed or modified in any way or form or fashion, right? So we in Idaho have watermarked paper ballots, right? You vote on a paper ballot. Whether you're voting absentee or in person, you have a physical piece of paper that you mark with a pin, and all of that goes into what we call a vote tabulating machine, right? Now we use the vote tabulating machines, the scanners, to be able to process that. Now, not every county in Idaho even uses tabulation machines. Some are so small, they're dealing with hundreds of votes, and they still hand count, right? But when we're talking like Ada County with 300,000 registered voters, we'd be hand counting and making a lot of mistakes hand counting for a long period of time before people got really tired of not getting the results. So for accuracy and for efficiency, we use the vote tabulation scanners as part of our vote system. They're not vote machines, right? You're not pushing a screen to vote for somebody. You are marking on a piece of paper. That ballot, paper ballot, gets scanned. That paper ballot goes into a repository where we keep, and we actually post all of those images, like you'd mentioned before, the ballot verifier. All of those images that are online for us, those are actual images of paper ballots that people hand marked to vote. So that's the difference between voting machines and systems that use vote tabulation machines to help them out.
And one thing, when you mentioned that number, 300,000, okay, that's a number that I've heard kicked around, and people criticize using technology they're like, 300,000, that's not that many. You could get like 100 volunteers and hand count 300,000 votes really quickly. And initially when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, you probably could. Like if I was doing it and I just had like a little legal pad, like, yeah, I'd probably make some mistakes. I don't know how many, but I'd probably make some mistakes. But you could absolutely do that. That is a false premise, because what people are assuming is the 300,000 ballots each have one question. So you're tabulating 300,000 questions, like yes or no, right? Now, yeah, you could probably bang that out. This person's a yes, this person's a no, this person's voting for Trent, this person's voting for Matt, whatever it might be. But on these ballots, you have a range, on all the 300,000 ballots, you have a range of 20 to 30 questions, depending on your precinct, depending on incorporated, unincorporated city, what city, all these different things. So you're not looking at 300,000 questions. You're looking at like 9 million questions that would have to be considered if you had, let's say, 30 questions per 300,000 ballot. That is such an astronomical amount of material to go through. The mistakes in categorization would be so bonkers that it's like, okay, yeah, there's no way that you would have the manpower and the cost and the time and the error tolerance to hand count 9 million questions in any kind of reasonable time frame.
And it's also the expectation of when you get results, right? In today's day and age, people want it now. They're staying up on election night waiting for results, right? If they don't hear it the next day, what is their first thought? Something's wrong, right? Can you imagine me hand counting things for weeks, right? And having all the people going, what's going on here? Why are you taking so long? There's got to be
we're only on question 3,700,000, blah, blah. We still got another.
And to layer on top of that, it's not just the number of votes that you are tabulating by hand. Right. It's getting it right by precinct and by split, right? We have 198 precincts in our county. In that 198 precincts, there are splits within those precincts, right? Where a taxing district overlaps. And you have hundreds, sometimes thousands of different ballot styles. So it's not 300 of the exact same ballot with the exact same contests on every single ballot. It is hundreds, sometimes thousands of different styles of ballots that are accounting for different things like cemetery races, school districts, mayors, city council, the whole gambit is run on these, and they're not all the same. So,
and again, this just gets back to, we don't have voting machines. We have technology that assists in counting the physical ballot. And you guys run audits. First off, you do testing in a court proceeding, essentially, to test and make sure that the machine is, in fact, reading out what everybody sees on a piece of paper.
Exactly.
That machine gets sealed, right? That goes into secure storage through, it's the sheriff's office, right?
Sheriff doesn't do it before the count. He does it afterwards.
Gotcha. So it goes, but it's secured and stored and sealed. Then it's opened on voting day. You count the ballots. The physical ballots are stored and secured. The machines are then, that you don't do anything afterwards with machines. Do you like test them after the fact?
Oh, we do audits on machines when they come back, yes.
Okay, so you audit them before, you audit them after. Once you've gone through all of this, you also do random audits on physical ballots, correct?
The Secretary of State comes in and does audits on random precincts and random selections of ballots. But we've also, in Ada County, taken on Ballot Verifier, which is a third-party audit, not of just a selection of ballots. It's of every single ballot, right?
Oh,
You can
because
look
you
at
have the images.
every single ballot, and anybody that wanted to could download every single image and run it through their own software if they didn't trust the software that we are providing to do their own forensic audit of the election. So there is nothing that we're hiding. There's nothing that people don't have access to that they could come in and go, yeah, there's something going on here, right?
Somebody told me once, if you want to make sure your ballot's counted correctly, you could take out a $2 bill and put the serial number. I was like, $2 bill? Who's walking around with a $2? Once you're out of middle school, that's over.
I got a couple. I'll let you borrow one if you want.
Well, I can't borrow yours because then we'd have the same
Right.
serial number. But in reality, I had a friend who drew an image, a small little thing, on his ballot as he voted. Turned it in, and then he looked up his ballot to verify that his votes were in fact what he selected, and they were counted as what he put down. So he made sure that his physical ballot was not manipulated and it was counted correctly. Have you had any instances where somebody has looked up in the hundreds of thousands of votes that you guys have scanned and provide to the public? Have you had any instances where somebody looks something up and they're like, hey man, my vote either got changed or it got recorded incorrectly?
Not a single instance. In fact, there's one really cool experience that happened just recently with a race that we had in May. We had a position decided by 2 votes, right? And the person qualified for a free recount if they so chose, right? And so they called me and said, hey, I'm not sure that I feel comfortable with the results of the elections, right? For whatever reason, it was really close. I'd like a recount, right? And I said, you're entitled to that. We'll absolutely do it, right? But do me a favor first. Go look at the ballot verifier and look at all the contests and ballots associated with just your race, because it's really easy to sort down and just look at the ballots that are associated with a single race, right? And she goes, okay, no problem. And so she goes on there and she looks at it and she calls him back later and goes, yeah, I don't need to do a recount. There's nothing there, right?
She self-audited.
She self-audited and said, I don't need to do a recount. We were within 2 votes. And she goes, I don't need to do a recount. I've looked at all of them and they're all legit.
How many votes were in her so how many ballots?
There were thousands. I can't even remember the exact number.
And she went through and she was like, yeah, man, there's nothing here. So we don't know if she did all 1,000, but she might have sampled like 100 or 200 or all of them and just been like, not a single mistake.
Yep.
Dang, man. And talk about a hyper motivated individual. She was looking for through every last one to be really sure.
And you know how much a recount costs for the county to do?
How much?
It's tens of thousands of dollars.
Did you bet her in on that? You're like, hey, you recounted yourself. Here's a 5 spot. Probably not.
But it's a time saver. It's a trust builder, right? We're not hiding these boxes of ballots somewhere in a warehouse any longer. They're all out there for you to see. So it's something that we take a lot of pride in here in Ada County.
So the concern ultimately was, as national communication has come out, hey, do we have voting machines and do we have mail-in ballots? And overwhelmingly, the answer is no, we do not have that. Now, again, no matter what people think about mail-in ballots, or excuse me, absentee ballots, where somebody is an Idaho citizen and they were say, for whatever reason, I can't come here. There is, I'm sure, a certain percentage of the population or a portion of the population that says that's not right. They should have to physically make it here. Okay, that's fine. You just be the one that gets on the plane and flies overseas and talks to our military servicemen and women that are serving in our military, protecting us. And you tell them that because they can't make it home because they're on active duty, they don't get a decision.
Right.
Right? Like, okay, so we should at least recognize that there are times and places and certain situations where we absolutely should uphold a constitutional mandate to provide a capacity to vote for people that cannot physically make it there.
Absolutely. And it's not just military. I got an 83-year-old mother. She's voted in person in almost every election she's been alive for, right? And she's losing her capability to get around and do things. Someone's going to have to come fight me if they say she can't vote anymore because she can't make it to a physical precinct, right? I've got kids that are in college who call Idaho home. They want to come back here, right? They want to have a say in who represents their home state and their home city and the taxing districts that they are paying taxes in, right? And to have someone come in and tell me, oh, they're not physically here, so they can't vote, that's just garbage, right? There's so many instances in which we can pull up and say, this isn't right, right? A single mom working 3 jobs, right? I've heard someone come in and say, well, we offer 2 weeks early voting. If she can't make it on election day, just make her go vote in person early. And I go, she's working 3 freaking jobs, right? If she's got to choose between putting food on the table for her kids or going to vote, what do you think she's going to choose, right? I mean, there's just so many instances. Now, again, in Idaho, the vast majority vote in person. We make it easy, very easy to vote in person for people with early voting, precincts all over the place. Nobody waits in line hardly ever in Ada County to vote in person. Why would I go make it like trying to climb a 27,000-foot mountain, right, to vote absentee when someone has a very valid reason why they can't vote in person? It just boggles my mind, right, that we even have this discussion here in Idaho.
And you don't, to be clear, you're not saying that somebody has to provide a justifiable reason to vote absentee. If somebody requests it, you provide it. But what you're saying is anybody can imagine a situation that is valid in their mind and reasonable in their mind. Even if you don't want to talk military, just talk we have elderly, we have, bogged down parents. Come on, man. Like, it doesn't make sense that you would say, hey, only people that physically go on, for instance, voting day or something should be able to vote.
Right.
Man, that's a lot. That's a lot. Are you at liberty to talk about the cases of election fraud or manipulation that individuals in Ada County have been charged with recently?
Sure. Not in specifics,
listen,
but I can talk with generalities.
I just saw some mugshots and I was like, oh, because last year, I spoke with Secretary of State Phil McGrain and you, and there was an executive order that people like, the governor's like, listen, man, make sure, like, let's really make sure. And everybody's like, okay, let's really make sure. Talk to me about what people have been charged with, because again, the sentiment was, look, if we catch you cheating, this is not a joke. Like, we're going to get a hold of the sheriff. He's going to get a hold of you. Like, real things are going to happen.
Yeah. And
now we've had a handful of cases where people have been charged with exactly, trying to manipulate votes.
Yep. What's difficult to see is the statutory headline or the title for what they're being charged with includes tampering with elections equipment and interfering with elections,
right,
but it's also illegal voting, right? So what we're finding is we have to, because of today's day and age of social media, they see that charge and they go, oh, what's going on, right?
Right. They went after the machines, or they voted illegally, right?
It's illegal voting. Everything that we've seen has been illegal voting. And it falls under 2 categories, right? Either you're not qualified to vote. Well, all of them you're not qualified to vote, right? Except one, where someone attempted to vote twice.
Gotcha.
Right? But it's either you're not a citizen, right? Or you're a felon and you have not had your rights restored to you to be able to vote. We have been prosecuting felon cases for decades, right? And they just now have been grouped into this citizenship push that's been happening over the last year and a half from the executive order for the governor. So what you're seeing in these arrests recently, or these charges that are coming out, is a continuation of that investigation that's been going on for some time, right? So there's been a handful. I think there's 2 right now that have to do with citizenship, questions of citizenship. And those will go through the courts and there'll be evidence and all that stuff will be presented, right? And they'll figure out if there's a case there or not, right? They obviously think there is, otherwise they wouldn't issue the warrant for the arrest and carry forward with it. Right. The others are all felonies, right? They're folks that either knew they couldn't vote and tried to vote, or didn't know they could vote because of their felon or their probation, or the reasons for their arrest hadn't been fulfilled yet, so they hadn't had their rights restored. So those are the things that are happening right now. So when you see that mugshot and there's a title under it that says,
machine tampering or something,
it's not voting tampering any. It is simply people that are trying to vote that don't have the right to vote.
And how many people are that are being charged under this? How many of them were not U.S. citizens? Just one?
There's two that I'm aware of.
Okay, so two that weren't U.S. citizens and they tried to vote. And were those in Ada County?
Those are in Ada County.
Okay, so 2 out of 300. How many registered voters do we have?
300,000.
Okay, so 2 out of 300,000. And then how many people that did not have the right to vote but were U.S. citizens?
I think there's between 7 and 10, somewhere in there.
Okay, so like a dozen people. Now again, it's like, oh no, these people are getting charged. Like this is that's a mugshot. Like the handcuffs, the whole bit. Is there going to be, and you may not be able to comment on this, but like, what's the prosecution of this? Is it like a fine, or is it like, what's the punishment?
It's a range of things that can happen to include confinement, right? There could be stripping voting rights for a long time. Who knows about the non-citizen cases with the whole national push towards deporting people and all that kind of stuff. I don't know any of those details. My jurisdiction stops after I hand over all the information to the sheriff's office to investigate. And then between the sheriff's office and the prosecutor, they decide, is there something here to prosecute? And then they issue the warrants to go out and arrest the folks.
Gotcha.
There's still cases that need to come forward, right? And the evidence needs to come forward, and everyone's going to have their day in court. But that's where we're at right now.
And for the people that are not U.S. citizens that attempted the vote, my mind instantly went to like, oh, well, just, deport them. Like, is this criminal? Is this civil? But there are nuances here, right? Because they attempted the vote doesn't mean they were in the country illegally. It just means they weren't a U.S. citizen. So you could have like a green card. It's like, no, you have legal residency here. You just can't vote. And like, shame on you for voting. So you get, whatever fine, or again, I'm not familiar with all the deportation laws, but again, that would be essentially a consideration. Like you could have people here on green cards that get arrested for something and they don't automatically get deported.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Wild times. Originally I wanted to invite you in. I just want to touch at the end. You were the subject of national news, and you have since gone around the country, traveled around the country at people's request to explain how you have derived this incredible election system that's incredibly secure, that people can self-audit themselves. What has been the reception for that around the country? Are people realizing like, oh, Trent figured it out. Like this is the formula. This is the play. Run this play. Or are people pushing back on it?
It runs the gamut of responses, right? There's a lot of people that are dumbfounded that we figured out how to do it, right? Some of it is just the political preferences within the state that we live in, right? There's other states that have passed laws that would make what we're doing illegal, right? Where it's against the law to post ballot images online. Right. They're
even though there's nothing to identify the individuals,
they're swaying towards, there could be something on the ballot that could identify somebody, and they want to protect people's identities and their privacy in voting. I don't blame them for that. They're in their own state. They want to run things that way. That's fine. But here in Idaho, we thought, this is a perfect time to be able to show people there's nothing to hide here. Right. The transparency that we call it radical transparency. Right. And we're remodeling our facilities right now in that same mindset with radical transparency, glass walls, so everyone can see in every nook and cranny of our facility. There's nothing to hide. Right. And that's been largely accepted across the country as I've traveled. The National Association for Secretaries of States, I went there a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and briefed it. And the reception there was just like, wow. I mean, I had secretaries of states from multiple states walk up to me and say, hey, how do I do this? Right. We want this for our entire state. And so there's been a really good reception for it. It's fun, though, when you get through all of the transparency stuff to really get into voter behavior, because this is the unforeseen thing that's happened with Ballot Verifier. It has opened up the first vision ever of voter behavior, right? We've always been able to look at results based off precincts, based off races, based off political parties, right? But we've never been able to see an individual voter's behavior. Now, they don't know who that is, but they can see that there's a lot of voters that will vote for various things, and it scrambles their minds. They'll sit there and go, there's no way that that person voted for that candidate and that ballot measure.
Right. That school bond and that dude.
Right. There's no way. And you're like, yes, not only did that person do that, 10,000 people did that. Right. And so it really gets people thinking about, who am I reaching? Who am I talking to? Who am I campaigning to? Right. It's no longer party lines. It's communities. It's these people, groups that get together and go, you know what? I'm a full-fledged whatever you want to call your political party, right? But yet I also think that this is important for my community because I may be having young kids and want this in my community, or I'm a senior citizen. This matters more to me, right? And it may cross a party line that people just go, those party lines aren't crossed. And you're like, no, they're crossed all the time, right? And you need to start seeing people as informed, intelligent people with various needs and not cram them into this box that you think is the right thing for everyone else, right? I think that's what we take pride in here in Idaho, right? That little libertarian streak in all of us that live here in Idaho that go, you know what? I respect you. You respect me. We do our thing. Right. But we want strong communities. I want you to be able to pursue your dreams. I want to be able to pursue mine, man. And I'm not going to come tell you what to believe or how to do your things. And you're not going to do the same to me. Right. But we have this common bond where we can have conversations and disagree with each other and get through hard things. Right. And figure out solutions like we did here in Idaho that now the rest of the country is going, wow, man, that Ada County and Idaho figured it out. Right? Maybe we could figure it out too. Right? Republicans and Democrats both love ballot verifier here in Idaho.
That's incredible.
How many things
it's the only honest bipartisan
both parties love, right? Because you're like, look, we can trust our elections. I know that the person that's getting elected is going to be elected, and there's not going to be any funny business going on because I can see it. I can go and look at it, right? And so,
how, if I may ask, this may be impossible for you to answer, but let's take like the top 5 or 10 most populous counties in Idaho. How hard would it be to roll out ballot verifier to all of the other counties, the big ones?
It's a finance question.
Gotcha. Is it an expensive task?
It's not expensive, but it does cost money. Right? It's not free. We partner with a company that helps us do this, right? And there's a cost associated with both with getting your system integrated into it and then maintaining it and doing it every election, right?
Sure.
So there's a licensing fee that comes with it. I think the best solutions for things like this down the road will be statewide, right? There's got to be legislation that's accompanied with funding, right? It can't come and go, hey, we want everyone to do this, but we're not going to provide you any money to do it. But I do think that that's a solution that a lot of other states are looking at. Arizona being one of them, Texas, other places where they're going, look, it's not a top-down approach, but it's a top-down funding approach, right? We want to make this available and easy for all these disparate counties to do it, but we're going to provide you funding to be able to do it. And I think the citizens deserve that, right?
Do you think this might be the only thing that hyper-conservative people in the state of Idaho would fund the government for? If they're like, hey, man, do you want to be sure that you can see your ballot and check it, and it's going to cost you an extra $2 on your property tax? They'd be like, hell yeah. I mean, that sounds great.
I do. They might cut something else to fund it, but they would fund it.
Let's just say that's a good dollar spent.
Yeah.
Like, as long as it's not, you don't want to say any dollar spent on elections is valuable, but this is one where it's like, gosh, man. I mean, just the ROI of just having one person be able to verify, like, okay, yeah, there's no monkey business. Let's not run an audit. Like, that saved Ada County tens of thousands of dollars. That's fantastic. Now, I don't know how much this costs, so maybe it's like pennies in the bucket, or drop in the bucket. But the point is, it would be cool to see this rolled out. I remember talking to a family member about after 2020, and he was very concerned that the election had been stolen. And again, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to have an opinion about it. I remember him saying, like, there's been fake elections or election manipulation, and he referenced JFK, like back in the day. And I asked him at the time, I was like, what like, where's that information? And he was like, well, we all know. I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying. And there's, but the problem that I encountered was, okay, I can believe him, I cannot believe him. It's irrelevant. The point is, I can't figure it out for myself. I just have to take his word for it. And that really struck me. And so for the years, the years after that conversation from 2020 to now, it's been kind of like, wait, how do we figure this out? Like, how do we verify if, there's some secret Wi-Fi? And it's like, oh, we have physical ballots. Oh, there are like random audits. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's that. Oh, there are these checks and balances. Oh, you can't vote twice. Like, oh, we check your signatures. Oh, we do this. Oh, you have a ballot that you turn in and you walk into the voting, and within seconds of you actually registering a vote, either in person or your drop-off vote getting counted, it informs the voter roll. It's like, no, this guy already voted. It's like all of these checks and balances, like, oh my gosh, maybe we'll get to the point where my kids will grow up in a world and start voting in a world where anybody who says the thing was stolen is going to have to be like, okay, can we just go online and double check? Or are you just saying this? Because like, which of these ballots is fraudulent? Like, can we find somebody who's ever had their vote counted incorrectly? And maybe this is the solution. It's like, oh no, we checked this box. Like, we fixed this one in 2024.
Right.
That'd be awesome.
It would be awesome.
God bless it, Trent. Listen, I know it's a working day. You came in. Is there anything you'd like to add here at the end?
There's one more thing. What was it? It's just lost my mind. Hold on a sec. Give me 10 seconds.
You take your time, baby.
Okay.
I got nowhere else to be. Pour myself some more coffee.
Shoot.
Better remember it because you can never come back in.
There is one thing. We've been extremely blessed here, and this is one of the things that is different between Idaho and a lot of jurisdictions that I interact with across the country. And that is, we have elected officials locally at the commissioner level, right, that believe putting money into elections is important, right? When I talk to a lot of other people around the country, they're like, we would absolutely love to do what you're doing in Idaho. And it's not just ballot verifier. It's like your whole system, right? How you run things, your facilities, all those things. And they said, but no one will give us money to do it, right? So I want to make sure that I give a shout out to those that actually do. We're spending $4 million on a new facility renovation, right? We've just awarded a budget this last couple of weeks that's going to replace all of our ballot scanners, right, with the latest security upgrades that are found within Trump's executive order that he put out several months ago, right, saying if you're going to have voting tabulation machines, they have to have this security level, right? We're doing that. We're investing in that. We're taking it really seriously, but it takes money, right? And so I would encourage people that are involved with legislation that want to come in and they want to cherry pick certain things out of elections and say, I don't like this one thing. But like you had just mentioned, there's hundreds of things that are wrapped together, woven together that make this system great, right? If you're going to come in and cherry pick one or two things, you better make sure that you understand the financial cost of trying to unweave that and the impacts it's going to have. And if you want to change something, great, fund it, right? Don't just tell us to change it and then think we're going to magically come up with the money somehow to be able to fix these things, because it's not cheap to run secure, transparent, free, and safe elections.
God bless it, man. I appreciate that. And shout out to our county commissioners. Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. Let's do this again.
Okay.